The diplomatic rift between Germany and Ukraine appears to be healing, with a visit today by Germany's foreign minister. Annalena Baerbock is the first cabinet minister to travel to Ukraine since Russia invaded in February. The Ukrainian government had criticized Germany for its initial reluctance to supply heavy weapons and for its economic ties to Russia. But Berlin is now sending tanks and artillery and has dropped its opposition to an EU-led phase-out of Russian energy. Well, at a press conference earlier, Baerbock described why Germany is supplying heavy weapons and why it is cutting its dependence on Russian oil.
We have understood all too clearly that economic dependencies do not give us security if the aggressor doesn't care about the well-being of his peoples. And this is why we are reducing our dependence on Russian energy to zero, consistently and forever.
And a short time ago, I spoke with DW correspondent Fanny Fashar in Kyiv and asked her what she thought Baerbock's message was during the visit.
Basically, that Germany stands by Ukraine, that they do express this solidarity not just by going to Bucha. That was one of the first visits, basically, during this short trip. We do not know exactly how long it's going to take. A lot of things are secret revolving around this trip. But the fact that she paid her respect to Bucha first and now talking about the very important element there, that people need to be held accountable who committed those crimes, that according to human rights organizations, but also a lot of Western allies here of Ukraine, amount or are equal to war crimes. These are all words that Ukrainians really want to hear. These are the things that people were actually anticipating already to hear from Germany, but nobody so far from the German government came to visit, except now the foreign minister. There was a lot of diplomatic row in between Berlin and Kiev over the past few weeks. So now having this press conference there in between the German foreign minister and her Ukrainian counterpart Kuleba is really, as Ukraine already says, a historical turning point, given the fact that now it's quite clear that Germany really wants to be not just talking about solidarity, but really actively supporting this country, and not just with a few thousand helmets, as they were planning to do prior to the beginning of this war, but with heavy weaponry. Now, in practical terms, of course, some of that weaponry is something that Ukrainian soldiers need to be taught how to actually apply. So as we have heard there from Foreign Minister Baerbock, apparently trainings on the howitzer are about to begin in Germany. But also, and this is actually what people here in Ukraine were looking forward to hearing, is that Germany says we are going to support, Germany is going to support Ukraine when it comes to the EU membership. However, at the same time, they of course want to keep all of that realistic, saying that this is not going to happen overnight. It is not going to be a shortcut when it comes to EU membership. However, and we have to remember, people took to the streets end of 2013 here in Kiev. People were dying because of their longing towards the West, towards the European Union. In fact, Kuleba, the foreign minister of Ukraine, said this is an issue of life and death, the EU membership. But once again, here Germany really wants to keep those hopes quite realistic, that this is something that's not going to happen overnight.
Having said that, were there any remaining points of tensions?
It seems for now, especially now that President Zelensky and Foreign Minister Baerbock have met as well, it seems like everything is on a restart mode at this point. You have to know there was a lot of discussion, a resentment almost diplomatically, as President Steinmeier, Germany's President Steinmeier, was uninvited by the Ukrainian officials here over, well, first of all, over some allegations there that his connections are quite close with Russia, given his former functions before he became president in Germany, when he was foreign minister among the cabinet of the former Chancellor Merkel. But it seems like all of this has been sorted, and it seems, as I say, because we have to see whether practical things are going to follow here to these new commitments. But it seems as if Germany is really stepping up, and some people really wonder whether it had to do maybe also a little bit with that push that came week ago from the opposition leader, Merz, who was here actually just a week ago, basically saying that the German government needs to step up. So it's quite likely that after the foreign minister being here now, that maybe German Chancellor Scholz and even President Steinmeier may follow next to underline these commitments of partnership with Ukraine.
And Fanny, can you give us a quick update of what's happening in eastern Ukraine?
The situation there, it's really difficult to establish the full picture, but one thing is certain, that fighting rages on. However, it's not just an advancement that's been made over the past couple of weeks since the Russian forces have withdrawn from Kiev. It's not just the Russian forces who have made some advancements in the southern and in the eastern part of Ukraine. Also, we're hearing that actually Ukrainian forces are stepping up, trying to actually have a counteroffensive underway in the northeastern part of Ukraine around Kharkiv, trying to actually make sure that the Russian forces withdraw from these villages, basically not trying to avoid that they take Kharkiv, which was really the risk over the past weeks. It seems like that the Ukrainian forces are succeeding in trying to keep the Russian forces away from Kharkiv. But the situation and the picture all over remains quite blurry. In fact, some observers say that it seems like this is going to be a very prolonged war, and the standoff seems to be quite likely in many parts of Ukraine.
Fanny Fashar reporting from the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. Thank you very much, Fanny. Well, more than most, the name Bucha has become synonymous with atrocities committed by Russian forces in Ukraine. Although the threat is far from over, people are now gradually returning to the small town. The 3,000 residents are unable to forget the lives that have been lost. But as Fanny Fashar reports, they're trying to rebuild among the ruins.
Long lines at this fuel station in Bucha. Drivers are only allowed to buy 10 liters each.
It's not enough to fill up your car, even to get to Kyiv.
Around 3,000 residents have returned since Russia withdrew from here and the front line shifted. But the impact of the war is everywhere.
Here in Bucha, people have to share this one gasoline station, and this is one of many problems they face as they struggle to restart their lives.
Even the basics like water and electricity are still lacking. Their priority is restoring essential services. Mikalina Skorik works for the city, coordinating the reconstruction.
This trade center was completely robbed at the beginning.
She wants people to come back and help rebuild what remains after the Russian occupation.
If Russians will not do a second attempt to attack Kyiv, Bucha will become a comfortable place for living as it was.
But for now, the city depends on private donations like this to feed people, as most supermarkets were destroyed. Yet residents are optimistic.
The sky above is peaceful. We are getting back to normal. Everything is getting better. People are coming back.
But not everyone who wants to return has anywhere to live. Nearly 3/4 of all homes here have been damaged or destroyed. Halina and Mikola's house burned to the ground in a rocket attack.
Oh my God, this was my living room.
The couple fled to Kyiv, but wants to move back to Bucha as soon as possible.
Bucha has been liberated. It's my home. I don't want to be anywhere else. I'm staying here.
In the ruins, they find 2 jars of pickles that the Russian troops left untouched.
At least we still have this to eat. Life goes on.
No one knows whether it's safe enough to return in the long term, but those brave enough to come back are sending a clear message to Russia. They will not give up on their homeland.